Everyone envies that I have Cheng Hao, such a kind and considerate husband, but I found that he had to send an ambiguous text message to his first love in between taking a shower. He also asked for help online late at night. We love each other deeply, but we can't be together. It hurts me. He didn't know that the white moonlight he had loved for many years was just playing with him, and it was also related to his father's death. And my heart has already fed the dog. 1. When I was about to tell Cheng Hao the good news with the ultrasound test sheet, he was not at home. The door of the study, which had always been tightly closed by him, opened with a light touch today. Cheng Hao always didn't let me into his study, but I vaguely saw the paintings all over the wall, and I came closer to see them clearly. It's all portraits of people. The brushstrokes are delicate and smooth, which shows the painter's strong love for the people in the painting. The person in the picture is not me. I feel suffocated. Cheng Hao seemed to go out in a hurry, and the computer on the desk even forgot to turn off and lock the screen. I saw an email that opened on the screen. Cheng Hao, I'm going to your hometown to find you. If you still care about me, come and see me, okay? Wang Yuya. This is Cheng Hao's ex-girlfriend, a woman he once loved. My heart fell to the bottom in an instant. I don't know what kind of mood I drove to Cheng Hao's hometown. Before I could get out of the car, I saw Cheng Hao's mother push a girl out of the gate. Get out of here. Don't let me see you. The girl fell to the ground, and the gifts thrown by Cheng Hao's mother were scattered around her. Cheng Hao rushed over to help her. She snuggled into Cheng Hao's arms and said pitifully, Auntie, I just want to visit you. Cheng Hao's mother scolded angrily, My son is married. Why are you still coming to my house? She rushed up and pulled Cheng Hao to hold the girl's arm. Get up for me. Don't help her. Cheng Hao stood up, gritted his teeth and said coldly to the girl, You go first. The girl's tears are like broken pearls. The sun was so hot that I sat in the car and clearly saw that Cheng Hao's eyes were also red. Girl, suddenly, he took out a fruit knife from his arms and said, Since you don't want to see me anymore, I'll do what you want. The blade cut open her slender wrist and blood splashed. Cheng Hao rushed to the ground, grabbed the girl's bleeding wrist and shouted at his mother, Call an ambulance. He was shocked and anxious, and his handsome face was deformed. I sat in the car and was also shocked by this sudden change. I watched Cheng Hao take the girl into the ambulance. Cheng Hao's mother's face turned pale. Finally, she calmed down and began to clean up the mess on the ground against the eyes of the onlookers around her. I squeezed the inspection sheet in my back, my fingers trembled, and finally I didn't get out of the car to help. I calmed down and called Cheng Hao. After the dripping sound, the phone was quickly hung up. His text message then arrived. There are some things to do in the company. You don't have to wait for me to go home tonight. I frowned and sent a message. I have something to tell you in person. The other side was silent, and finally a very playful word was sent out after a while. Okay, then please wait for me, dear wife. He called me my dear wife. What kind of mood does he use? How about calling me that? I looked at the email record of Cheng Hao and the girl on the computer screen in the study, and every word was painful. The girl said, I have loved you for 10 years and have never changed. I just want to ask you a question. Do you still love me for 10 years? Cheng Hao's reply was more than half an hour later, which must have been a battle between heaven and man. But in the end he replied to her. An exact and positive sentence. Love, of course, love. It turns out that he still can't forget Wang Yuya for so many years. 2. When Cheng Hao and I were not very good at talking, our two families often talked. We are childhood sweethearts and family-like, but I'm not his girlfriend. Wang Yuya is his girlfriend. Wang Yuya transferred to our class in high school. They fell in love at first sight. Cheng Hao's personality was unruly when he was a child, and even his parents could rarely control him, but he would listen to whatever Wang Yuya said. As soon as Wang Yuya transferred to school and couldn't keep up with the learning progress, Cheng Hao used his pocket money to ask Wang Yuya to tutor, accompany her in class, and help her copy hundreds of pages of notebooks. He can even ride more than 10 kilometers just to buy her favorite snacks. I secretly peeked at their happiness and envied them silently. Soon Wang Yuya's rebellious period came. So Cheng Hao began to fight with all kinds of gangsters for Wang Yuya. He took her to the bar to dance all night and skip class for a month, just to take Wang Yuya to the deep mountains to race and watch the stars. Therefore, the parents of both sides intervened. Wang Yuya was sent out of the country, and Cheng Hao was locked up at home. Cheng Hao didn't have time to be sad for a long time, and his family suddenly had a change. His father committed suicide by jumping off the building after bankruptcy, and his mother was also sick. When I went to see him, he lay in bed and cried silently, not eating or drinking. The debt collector broke in, smashed all the remaining furniture in their family, pulled Cheng Hao up from the bed, and slapped him to the ground. I lay on him to block the falling kicks and slaps. He also took out all the money on him. The debt collector didn't dare to hit me. After spitting on the ground, he left angrily. In the messy room I struggled to get up and helped him up carefully, but he suddenly shook off my hand. Don't pity me and don't come to see my jokes. I grabbed him forcefully and looked straight into his eyes. Cheng Hao, I can help you. Let me help you. Now that I think about it, I may not just want to help him without asking for anything in return. At that time, I secretly hoped and longed in my heart that his eyes and love could cover me one day. Later, I helped him pay the college tuition, lent him money to start a business after graduation, helped him get up again, and even went to the hospital to take care of his hospitalized mother. He is also getting better and better to me. He stayed up late and worked overtime and didn't forget to bring me my favorite cake to eat. When we go out together, he will squat on the street and help me tie my loose shoelaces. At that time, he was already a newcomer in the industry, reintegrating the bankrupt family business, young, handsome and rich. When he won the Best Young Entrepreneur, he confessed to me under the camera and asked me if I would like to marry him, with tsunami-like cheers and flashes next to me. I said yes with a smile, and the tears of happiness also became our sweet proof under the camera. And when I felt indescribable happiness, I thought that my husband, who loved me deeply, wrote down word by word on the forum. She secretly attended my wedding. She said that she was heartbroken and my heart was broken. What should I do? I still love her. Every word is like a sharp blade, stabbing into my heart fiercely. I fell asleep in a daze after crying. When he woke up, he heard the sound of dripping water. Cheng Hao had already returned and was taking a shower. Taking a shower as soon as you get home? Is it to wash away the smell of other women on your body? I thought about it in my heart. Cheng Hao came out of the bathroom. He is still holding a mobile phone in his hand and replying to something. He never took his mobile phone into the bathroom before, for fear of getting into the water, and even in the most stressful years of starting a business, there was no news that could not even delay a shower. I watched him come over quietly on the bed, put down the towel, and touched my forehead with concern. Why did you lie down so early? Are you not feeling well? He asked. I didn't squeak and I couldn't see any clues on his expression. He was calm and gentle. Unlike the spirited, proud and sharp image of his youth, he is now low-key, restrained and fascinating. I looked at him and suddenly asked him in a low voice, I haven't asked you, Cheng Hao, why did you propose to me? He was stunned, as if he didn't expect me to ask such a question. You are already married. What else do you want to do? He didn't answer me directly. Cheng Hao put the towel and mobile phone aside and asked me, haven't you eaten yet at night? I'll go to the kitchen to give you hot food. Then he went to the kitchen wearing only a pair of washed shorts. I fixedly looked at his naked back. There was a recent blood stain on it, which was caught by a woman. I took a deep breath and turned on the mobile phone he casually put on the side. He had to take his mobile phone with him in the shower, which was indeed to reply to Wang Yuya's message. Wang Yuya said, Honey, I'm really happy to come and hug me today. Without you, my life would be really boring. Cheng Hao replied to her, Don't think too much and take good care of your body. Wang Yuya said, Will you come to see me again tomorrow? Cheng Hao, Okay. Wang Yuya, That's great, then I'll wait for you here. Then a cute emoji. Cheng Hao didn't reply again. I locked the screen of my mobile phone and looked at Cheng Hao's back in the kitchen. I felt that my stomach hurt and my emotions were constantly turbing. Cheng Hao came over with a bowl of soup. He picked up a spoon and wanted to feed me. I turned my head to hide for a moment, looked at him fixedly and asked the question again. Cheng Hao, why on earth did you marry me in the first place? This time he was not surprised but looked at me with a gentle smile. Because you have always been very good and beautiful to me. We have known each other since we were young. You have been with me and helping me build my career. What he said was right. When he first started his business, even the salary paid to his employees was my pocket money. Even when there was not enough manpower, I also helped him do chores such as accountant, clerk, entertainer, secretary. I helped him do all the work. The small workshop with only a few people at the beginning, and now a large group that manages thousands of people, was built by me with him. It was me who accompanied him from the low point of life to the dazzling light. He saw my contribution to him and he also admitted it. His summary of me was very comprehensive and specific, but he didn't say it was because he liked me. I looked at him until his eyes were a little sore, and then said tentatively again, Cheng Hao, how about accompanying me back to my house tomorrow? He hesitated. Can I go at another time? There are still some important arrangements in my company tomorrow, so I can't leave. The tone is gentle and the attitude is sincere. My lips trembled, and before I could open my mouth again, his mobile phone rang. He hurriedly put down the soup bowl and stood aside to answer the phone, while I lay down slowly. I reached out and stroked myself. The chest, this heart, seems to have been beating for him for more than 10 years, and now there is only exhaustion left. 3. Of course, Cheng Hao didn't accompany me to my home. I drove home alone. My mother passed away when I was young. My father took me to get married again and married Aunt Lu Qiu. Aunt Lu Qiu also had a son in her last marriage, my stepbrother Lu He. Dad was not at home. Aunt Lu Qiu was a little surprised. Why didn't Cheng Hao come back with you? That my heart was sour and I didn't know what to say. Aunt Lu Qiu saw this and started the topic. Although Dad and Aunt Lu Qiu are business marriages and half-married couples, they have always had a good relationship. Aunt Lu Qiu has always been spoiled by her father and looks radiant. In contrast, my stepdaughter is haggard. I suddenly remembered that many years ago, I went home and told them that I was going to marry Cheng Hao. At that time, Aunt Lucio's first reaction was not to be happy. She actually hesitated a little. But she is not my biological mother after all, so she didn't say much. At that time I thought she felt that Cheng Hao's family had experienced changes. Whether it was financial resources or connections, it was far inferior to our family. Later, Cheng Hao successfully started a business, and we have been living a good life. Aunt Lucio has never said much. But now I think Aunt Lucio is a very smart woman. She has cooperated with my father to take care of the family's business in an orderly manner for so many years. The reason for her hesitation at the beginning may not be as simple as I thought. So I asked, Aunt Lucio, didn't you really want me to be with Cheng Hao at the beginning? Aunt Lucio looked at me with deep eyes. At that moment I thought she must have seen something, but soon she turned her eyes away, and her voice was as gentle as ever. Jane Missouri, in fact you two are very similar in some aspects. You are all too persistent. Sometimes this persistence is not necessarily a good thing. When I was in middle school I just silently stared at Cheng Hao's back. Year after year. Are you too persistent? My heart is sour. Aunt Lucio gently took my shoulder and said, Jane Missouri, your happiness is the most important thing. You don't have to make your head bleed. If you make a mistake you can turn around in time. Although I am not your biological mother, I still hope you will be happy. But Aunt Lucio, I have been hit by reality and my head is bleeding. I drove to the hospital and called my stepbrother Lu He on the way. He is now a lawyer. After the call was connected I could feel that he was a little surprised because I rarely contacted him. Brother? I tried to calm my voice. There are some things I may ask you to check for me. I have been thinking about Wang Yuya. She has lived abroad for so long. Why did she come back at this time? I always feel that something is wrong. When I came to the hospital I found Wang Yuya's ward. Actually, I just want to see if Cheng Hao really came to accompany her. It's like desperately wanting to find an ending to our feelings in our hearts. Hospital. In the private ward, Wang Yuya sat on the bed without foundation, her eyes were red, and she cried to pull Cheng Hao's sleeves. Cheng Hao dodged her hand and stood up. I'm married. His tone was cold and ruthless, but through the glass, I could see his fists clenched tightly, as if he was restraining something. Wang Yuya's face turned pale, as if she was so stimulated by his ruthlessness that she couldn't control it. I know Cheng Hao, I just like you. I can't forget you. I won't destroy the relationship between you and GNMO. She is Miss Tianjin, but I have nothing left now. My father has been imprisoned and censored, and everything at home has been confiscated. How can I be worthy of you? But I don't know who to go to accept you. She cried very miserably, and her thin shoulders kept shaking, as if she would faint because she couldn't bear the sadness in the next second. Cheng Hao was pulled by her sleeve and bit his lip silently. It can be seen that he is not unmoved. He is just choosing with his own heart. My heart is beating like a drum, hoping that he can push Wang Yuya away and come out at this time. As long as he comes out, I can pretend that nothing happened. But my hope was broken. Cheng Hao leaned over and picked up Wang Yuya and coaxed her in a low voice. Don't joke about your life anymore. I will help you with family matters. Don't be afraid. I looked at their tightly hugging figures, and I felt that the coldness began to spread from my lower abdomen, and my whole body seemed to be frozen and unable to breathe. I picked up my mobile phone and dialed Cheng Hao's phone. I saw him hurriedly comforting Wang Yuya, and then took the phone out of the ward. In the corridor, on the other hand, he took a few deep breaths and adjusted his tone. When he answered the phone, his tone sounded ordinary and relaxed. Hey honey, I'm still busy in the company. I don't think I can go back tonight. Can I order takeaway from the restaurant you like? I interrupted him and whispered, let's divorce. Then I hung up the phone without waiting for his reply. Outside the obstetrics and gynecology department, the nurse came over and said to me, Madam, it's your number. Please go to room 603. I covered my lower abdomen and trembled gently, saying, okay. 4. After the obstetric examination, I turned on my mobile phone and saw more than 30 missed calls from Cheng Hao. I ignored him and asked my stepbrother Lu He to pick me up at home. Lu He is worthy of being a top lawyer. His subordinates are very clever. Only in an afternoon he found evidence for me. He handed over a paper bag with concern in his eyes. Fortunately, the fetus is stable, but if you are in a bad mood now, don't look at it first. I smiled at him and said, it's okay. I've made up my mind. But just by opening the paper bag and scanning the stack of photos, I couldn't help but burst into tears. In the photo, it is a close photo of Cheng Hao and Wang Yuya in hotels, restaurants, and other places. They either hug or kiss, and their posture is intimate. I trembled with my hands and looked at them one by one, and my heart was like a knife. Lu He looked at my expression and said carefully, Wang Yuya, his father, was taken away for interrogation 4 months ago. He has been a local official for many years. I don't know how much he has done in the law and disorderly. Their family property has been frozen. Wang Yuya returned to China on the one hand, to find a way to save her father, and on the other hand, to make money as an internet celebrity in the domestic media as an overseas returnee. He deliberated on the wording. Wang Yuya found Cheng Hao as soon as she came back. They do see each other often these days. I cried like rain, and I don't know whether it's sadness or hatred. Luhi hesitated for half a moment, and finally gently hugged my shoulder. Don't be afraid, I'll help you. He paused and then shouted, Sister. I asked Luhi to take me back to my private house. Luhi said that I needed someone to take care of me in the early stage of pregnancy, and insisted on staying. Anyway, if there are many rooms, I will follow him. I was sleeping when Cheng Hao came up and was awakened by their argument. I want to see Jane, Missouri. This is my wife's home. Why are you stopping me? Seeing me come out, Cheng Hao rushed to me in 3 or 2 steps, with both anxiety and impatience on his expression. Where have you been? Why don't you answer my phone? I looked at his face. It turned out that Wang Yuya was back. Was he only impatient with me? I thought I had made up my mind, but I would still feel heartbroken. I said slowly, I know everything about you and Wang Yuya. He panicked for a moment and then forced an explanation. We are just ordinary friends now. Then he began to make up for it. If you are unhappy, tell me directly. Don't make a divorce at any time. I stared at his twinkling eyes and realized that the face I had been familiar with since I was a child looked so strange. Luhi cooked for me and left first. Before leaving, he looked at me worriedly. Call me as soon as possible. If you can solve it through negotiation, don't anger him. Yes, I'm going to talk to Cheng Hao. Now that he has come and things have come to this point, let's be honest and break up peacefully. Reason told me to calm down, but tears flowed in my eyes. I turned away and didn't want Cheng Hao to see my vulnerability. Cheng Hao was absent-minded and checked his mobile phone from time to time. He knew who was sending a message without thinking about it. About you and Wang Yuya. I said again. It's all said that it's nothing. Jianmo, why don't you trust me so much? Cheng Hao's impatience reached its peak, and the tableware fell to the ground with a bang. For so many years, even at the most difficult moment of his career, I have never seen him so out of control. Now, just mentioning Wang Yuya's name, he began to throw my tableware. He felt that he could come to me, and he had already put himself down. The pain brought by betrayal has swept my whole body and smashed my heart to pieces. I struggled to calm my breath, took out a stack of photos and put them in front of him. The top one was taken outside the coffee shop. Through the floor-to-ceiling glass window, he and Wang Yuya hugged and kissed in the corner. He looked through the stack of photos and didn't say anything. He didn't have the momentum just now. When I opened my mouth again, my voice was hoarse. You cheated on me. I have all the evidence. Let's get divorced. He explained eagerly. Honey, I'm sorry, I'm confused. Don't be angry, okay? I interrupted him. Cheng Hao, we have known each other for so many years, and we know you very well. I also brass that I have been doing my best to be good to you. I have liked you since I was a child. When you were in high school, you two fell in love. Although I was unhappy, I never had any damage. Later you separated, and I used all my savings to help your family get up again. For so many years, the person by your side has been me, and I have always thought that I have won your heart. But you are not willing. You are not willing to accept that your young love has no good results. You are such a persistent person, so I let you go, and you go to pursue your true love generously. After all, you never really let go of her. Even if he shows his love to me in a high profile in front of the whole world. In the past, every time I thought of the marriage proposal in the live broadcast, I would feel sweet. But now that I think about it, since the family changed, his personality has become introverted and calm overnight, and only the world has promoted our relationship. Is it really because you love me? Have you finally found that the friendship between our childhood sweethearts is precious? No, he is actually persuading himself in this way. He doesn't love me, but my help to him is too great to give up. My stepmother was right. I was too stubborn to love the wrong person, and I kept pretending not to know and refused to look back. Those sweet promises in the past seem to be ironic now. If Cheng Hao is not willing to accept Wang Yuya, am I not reluctant? We are not willing to accept our childhood sweethearts and the friendship we have known since childhood. But there is no good result. But now everything is spread out in front of me. False feelings, betrayal, husband, what's the point of me holding these? I admit that I failed. It's because I fell in love with the wrong person. Over the years, I have been too persistent in exchanging his love for his love. I was wrong. I admitted it. Cheng Hao was silent for a long time, so long that I thought he agreed if he didn't refuse. But he suddenly said, Jane, Missouri, I promise you that I won't see her again. I smiled blithely. You can't do it. He was a little anxious. I can do it. I really can't be without you. Give me another chance, okay? Under the table, my hand unconsciously stroked my lower abdomen, and my voice was gentle and sad. I gave you a chance. He was stunned. I continued. On the day when you didn't accompany me home, but hugged Wang Yuya in the ward. 5. I know that Wang Yuya will take action, but I didn't expect her to be so cruel. The doctor said that I should rest more in the early stage of pregnancy, so I left the company's affairs to my assistant first and recuperate at home. That I'm not going to tell Cheng Hao about the child. Anyway, he has decided to divorce, and he only said that he was not feeling well. Cheng Hao came to serve me every day, but he refused to agree to divorce. I really don't have the energy to quarrel with him all the time, so I let him arrange my food and clothing. He was afraid that I had no appetite, so he ordered some hot soup takeaway for me. However, the takeaway has not been delivered for a long time, and the phone between the merchant and the deliverman has not been connected. After 3 hours of timeout, the doorbell finally rang. The moment I opened the door, my anger reached its peak. How could it be overtimed for so long? I was stunned before I finished my words. The person standing at the door, dressed as a deliverman, was Wang Yuya. She held my takeaway bag in one hand and held the camera at me in the other hand, staring at me without blinking. After a long time, he showed a mocking smile. She said, "I haven't seen you for more than 10 years, and you are still not as beautiful as me." I subconsciously reached out to cover Wang Yuya, looked at the camera on my face, but before she touched her, she threw the takeaway bag directly on the ground, and then she lay on the ground with a thud. "I'm sorry." Her tears suddenly came out. "I'm lost. It's hard to find where you live, so I'm late." Her voice was so loud that it echoed in the corridor. "Don't be angry. I'm really sorry. It's all my fault." Her camera is still facing me. I was in a hurry to grab her camera, and then she pulled me to the ground as soon as she reached out, and her lower abdomen hit the fire hydrant by the wall heavily. I know who she did this scene for, but the pain in my body made me unable to stand up at all. And the next second, Cheng Hao appeared in my field of vision. He looked at us in shock and asked angrily, "What are you doing?" I looked up and saw that in just a dozen seconds, Wang Yuya had spilled all the soup on the ground and stuck to her body. Her hair was messy, and there was a red mark on her face, which made her look very embarrassed. "I'm sorry, Cheng Hao. I experienced being a delivery man and shooting video materials today, but I was late. Your wife probably hit me because she was angry. She didn't hit me hard. I fell down because I couldn't stand firmly," Wang Yuya said pitifully, and Cheng Hao rushed over to help her up distressedly. "What's wrong with your arm?" There was a winding bloodstain on Wang Yuya's hand. "Maybe your wife broke the plastic bowl of the takeaway when she pushed me just now, so it was cut. I'll take you to the hospital." Cheng Hao picked up Wang Yuya and walked out, not even looking at me. Cheng Hao. I called his name with difficulty. Cheng Hao turned around and just turned to me with his side face. "Jane Missouri, I didn't expect you to be such a person." His tone was disappointed. I clearly saw Wang Yuya in his arms, showing me a mocking smile. I was still lying on the ground. Cheng Hao didn't even come to help me, but left with Wang Yuya in his arms. My stomach hurt so much. A hot stream gushed out from under me, and I gradually lost consciousness. 6. In a daze, I heard some voices. "It's a girl. It's all formed. It's so pitiful that I can't keep it." "Daughter? My daughter? Why do you say that my daughter can't be protected?" The cold instrument probed into my body, and I desperately wanted to open my eyes, but I couldn't resist the power of the anesthetic at all. In despair, I fell into darkness again. When I opened my eyes again, Lu He held my hand tightly. When I woke up, he rushed out to call the doctor and stumbled back to comfort me. "You are still young. There is still a chance after the child is gone. Don't be too sad. I will take good care of you." The child is gone. The heart seems to fall into the abyss. My child is gone. My hope was shattered again. I remember that when I first got married, Cheng Hao's company was at the most difficult time. The two of us were so busy that we were looking for projects and investment as soon as we opened our eyes. My routine disorder caused me not to come to my period for 2 months. At that time, we all thought I was pregnant. Cheng Hao was so excited that he stayed up late for many nights to turn over illusions and named his child. Later, I found that I thought too much and both of them were a little lost. Cheng Hao hugged me and comforted me. "It doesn't matter anyway, the child's name has been given, and it can be used when the baby really comes. Now I will work harder to create better living conditions for the baby." I believed in him wholeheartedly at that time. Until Wang Yuya returned to China, I decided to divorce Cheng Hao, and I always thought that this child was God's last gift for our marriage. My family's industry has been very profitable in recent years, which is enough to give our children a rich growth environment. My father and stepmother were so kind to me, and my stepbrother, 24 filial husbands, fell in love with the enemy's daughter and never forgot her. After knowing the truth, he was defeated 39,103 inch. "Lu He, we will take good care of her. I have already planned to let this child grow up in love." However, Cheng Hao, the father of this child, the first love girlfriend he took care of, desperately caused me to lose my child. The child we had been looking forward to for a long time. I took out my mobile phone and saw the names Cheng Hao recorded in the notepad for our children. There were both girls' and boys' names. Tears gushed out, and the pain of heartbreak made me almost unable to speak. It turned out to be just an empty joy. "Cheng Hao, Wang Yuya, you have hurt me so much." Lu He hugged me distressedly. "If you want to cry, cry. I'll guard you." I let him hold me and tears fell on him. For a long time I slowly opened my mouth with infinite hatred in my voice. "Lu He, there is a stealth camera in the corner of the corridor of my house. You can use my owner's authority to monitor and call the police. I must make the person who harmed my daughter pay the price." Since Cheng Hao left with Wang Yuya in his arms that day, we haven't contacted each other. My stepbrother Lu He has been taking care of me. I didn't tell anyone about the miscarriage except Lu He, nor did my father and stepmother. I have always loved the wrong person for so many years. No matter how painful my heart is, I will bear all the consequences. Lu He has been in the legal field for many years, and soon drafted a professional property division agreement and divorce procedures for me. I asked him to negotiate with Cheng Hao as my agent. I don't want to see him anymore. The abortion has caused a lot of harm to my body, and I need to recuperate. But Wang Yuya didn't want me to have a good time. She pretended to be a delivery man to provoke my relationship with Cheng Hao. It was just the first step of her plan. She came with a camera that day. By the time Lu He told me, the internet was already overwhelmingly covered with my black material. Wang Yuya clipped the camera in front of her chest to record the whole process that day, but she maliciously edited me. In the picture I only wore simple pajamas because I was resting at home, and I looked pale and haggard. She edited out the picture of me competing for the camera. My expression was exaggerated and distorted. At the end of the video, her wrist was cut by the takeaway plastic box and the picture of bloodshed, which meant to tell everyone that I deliberately bullied the takeaway man at the bottom to make a living. The internet masses who didn't know the truth were quickly incited by her video. They madly scolded me as a vicious, ugly woman, and my personal information came out and even rushed into our company's official website to abuse. I sent a public relations team to solve the problem, but Wang Yuya posted videos one after another, claiming that she had only experienced the lives of people in different professions. She didn't expect that as a rich capitalist, I would bully the ordinary people like this. There are also more rational netizens who have found evidence that Wang Yuya is suspected of interfering in our marriage, but Wang Yuya directly exposed the evidence that she and Cheng Hao were in high school, proving that they are true love. I am just the object of Cheng Hao's business marriage. She promoted her innocent victim image on the internet, and accused me of taking away her lover while she went abroad. He even slandered that he did not support Cheng Hao's career, and did not understand his hard work. Instead, he often sneered at him because of his family's money, and she is Cheng Hao's only spiritual sustenance when facing my indifference and harshness. Netizens were even more angry. My information was exposed on the internet, and someone even sent a blade and a death notice to my home. Even the company's stock price tends to be affected. I know Wang Yuya's intention. She wants to manipulate the public opinion to hurt me, so that I will automatically quit when I am sluggish. Then she was able to rise to the top and be with Cheng Hao again. She felt that I could know Cheng Hao. With her in Hao's heart, he still supports Cheng Hao for so many years and is his support at ease. It must be because I am weak and bullied. But it's a pity that she misread me. I can take care of my family's property in an orderly manner, and I can also help Cheng Hao rise again and establish a large group with the jurisdiction of thousands of people. I am not a fragile little girl who can be defeated by these means. I have already arranged a good show for her. 7. Cheng Hao's mother passed away suddenly. When I went to see her, she was dying, holding a pair of shoes for a baby in her hand. She didn't know that I was going to divorce Cheng Hao. When she saw me, she happily took my hand. I dreamed last month that you and Cheng Hao had a baby. We were still a girl, so I started to make shoes, thinking about wearing them for the baby at that time. But as soon as I finished one, I was hospitalized. You take this one first, and when I get better, I will continue to do the other one. I took pink shoes and just left the door of the ward when I heard the bed attendant nanny inside calling the doctor in horror. The patient is unconscious. Come here quickly. In the midst of a commotion, I grabbed the small pink shoes, leaned against the wall of the hospital, and cried until I almost fainted. At the funeral, Cheng Hao crawled on the ground and howled, and then Wang Yuya hugged him, and their heads were close to each other. I bowed to Cheng Hao's mother with tears in my eyes. In the photo, she still smiled gently. Cheng Hao's mother already has a congenital disease and has been in poor health. Since Cheng Hao's father jumped off the building, she has been in a trance. But she has always been very good to me. Before my father was remarried, he didn't have time to take care of me. She often cooked for me. Later, I married Cheng Hao. She always treated me as my own daughter, and even helped me wash my underwear when I had menstrual pain. Such a good person has been suffering from illness for so long, and now he is finally relieved. If I hadn't seen Wang Yuya's portrait in Cheng Hao's study that day and his posts on the forum, if nothing had happened later, we might have been looking forward to the birth of my child with joy. She will take care of my daughter as seriously as she took care of me when she was a child. But nothing can be realized. I didn't look at Cheng Hao and Wang Yuya snuggled together anymore, and turned around and left. Lu He brought me the news. He said that Cheng Hao did not agree to divorce. I know why he doesn't agree. Now the company under his group is trying to hit the overseas market, and it is at the stage of burning money. If he divorces me, it means that I will share a lot of property and equity, and his capital chain will not be able to keep up. The competitor in that overseas market is staring at him. If he loses the chain at this time, it means that there is basically no chance to turn around in the future. But he couldn't abandon Wang Yuya. He even let Wang Yuya provoke public opinion to attack me, while he was perfectly invisible in the war between the two women, as if everything had nothing to do with him. No matter which side or Wang Yuya or I wins, he is a vested interest. Cheng Hao is worthy of being a businessman, and he is good at calculating. And Wang Yuya is still working hard. She has also posted a lot of videos to show off her wealth on the internet, showing off the jewelry Cheng Hao bought for him. Now she has more than 100,000 fans on the internet. I didn't say anything and kept putting pressure on Cheng Hao through the shareholders meeting. At the same time, I am still planning the post-divorce arrangements, liquidate the common property as soon as possible, and also realize some real estate. I need to cut with Cheng Hao as soon as possible. When Cheng Hao came to me, he didn't look like a business elite in the past. The pain of losing his mother and the pressure of business made him lose his spirit all of a sudden. He didn't wear a customized suit and his hair was messy. Jane Missouri, shall we not divorce? I can't stand it without you. His tone was pleading. Cheng Hao, I interrupted him and handed over 2 hospital certificates. Look at these 2 documents first. I looked at him with a smile. Cheng Hao opened it inexplicably, and then looked at it over and over again incredibly, his hands trembling uncontrollably. He looked up at me, and his eyes were full of shock and helplessness. Jane Missouri, this is... He didn't dare to continue. Yes, I looked at him. I'm pregnant. His breathing stopped and he held the 2 reports in a daze, as if the things in his hand weighed thousands of pounds. When he opened his mouth again, his voice was hoarse, and his eyes were full of brokenness and pain. Why didn't you tell me earlier? He actually questioned me? What an irony. I wanted to tell you the good news at that time. My finger tapped the table. Just when you hugged Wang Yuya in front of your mother. Cheng Hao's body shook suddenly, and the blood on his face faded in an instant. I continued. Then Wang Yuya came to my door and pushed me, causing me to miscarry. I stared at him and said word by word, our child was killed by her. And you didn't care about me and left with her in your arms. On the B ultrasound, a small curled-up human figure can be faintly seen. Cheng Hao's eyes widened, his face was like white paper, and his lips trembled, as if he wanted to say something. I threw the small shoes made by Cheng Hao's mother in front of him. This is what your mother made for our daughter. While you were hanging out with Wang Yuya, she only had time to finish one. At this moment I felt the uncontrollable pain again. It's hard to express, and I can never be relieved. Cheng Hao, you killed your daughter. Cheng Hao's face was full of tears of pain at this moment, and his originally handsome face became distorted, ferocious and terrifying at this moment. Sign it, leave the follow-up process to the lawyer, and we won't have any more to do with it. I put the divorce agreement in front of Cheng Hao. When I left, I could still hear the desperate cry and roar behind me. 8. In a live broadcast of Wang Yuya, the police suddenly broke in and took her away. The whole scene was synchronized to the internet by the live broadcast. At the same time, my company's official account forwarded the video of Wang Yuya being taken away, and issued a public statement. Yuya deliberately caused the abortion of our company's legal person, and the evidence is conclusive. Present, she has been detained. Our company reserves all rights to investigate, and will defend the legitimate rights and interests of our company's legal person GNMO in accordance with the law. And attached is the surveillance picture of Wang Yuya pushing me down in the corridor, as well as my lawyer's letter to sue those black people who attached Wang Yuya on the internet and slandered me. There was an uproar. At this time the angry netizens came back and found that they were actually taken advantage of by Wang Yuya. So they found out Wang Yuya's past and found that she was actually the third party who interfered in my marriage with Cheng Hao. Even the fact that Wang Yuya's father is currently under administrative detention, and investigation has been exposed. People are even more angry when they find out that Wang Yuya is the daughter of a corrupt criminal. Wang Yuya's reputation was ruined. Everyone is very concerned about Cheng Hao's attitude. Under the pressure of many parties, Cheng Hao did not dare to publicly favor Wang Yuya. What's more, even if he doesn't love me, Wang Yuya killed his child. He can't be completely angry with Wang Yuya. And it is precisely because of his attitude of daring to do that he is ridiculed by many parties on the internet and in our business circle. What is true love? In the face of disaster, we can only protect ourselves. It's ridiculous. Wang Yuya didn't want to go to prison and applied for civil settlement procedures with me. I promised to talk to her. In the police station, I saw Wang Yuya's once charming face, which was now full of panic and fear, and her well-maintained hair was now messy. I held the teacup and admired her current tragedy. Seeing me, her chest fluctuated with anger, but in the end, she could only endure her anger and asked me with a pale face, "What on earth are you going to do to reconcile?" I looked at her playfully. "Compensate me 5 million, write an apology letter by hand, record an apology video, and make a public statement in your personal account. The content of the apology must achieve the effect that I am satisfied with. 5 million. Why don't you grab it?" Wang Yuya rushed up angrily to hit me, but before she could raise her wrist, she was caught by the police guarding next to her, and her whole body was thrown back to the stool. Be honest and dare to make trouble in the police station again. Don't blame us for being rude. The police turned her hand and handcuffed, and Wang Yuya exclaimed sharply, "Now you have to come to me to reconcile." Since you don't agree with my conditions, you can go to jail. I stood up, stepped on my bag neatly, turned around and left. Stop! She shouted at me in a scream. I raised my eyebrows and turned around. Her face turned blue and white. Finally, I gritted my teeth and said, I agree to the terms of reconciliation. I smiled faintly. That's why you're good. Bookmark the reconciliation. Wang Yuya signed her name viciously, and she suddenly looked up and questioned me. Don't you just want money? Cheng Hao will give me this money. He only loves me. You haven't won his heart for so many years, and you don't feel ashamed. I saw the police go out and slapped Wang Yuya's face fiercely with his backhand. She tilted her head in the corner of the table by me, and made a loud muffled sound. I grabbed her hair and forced her to look up at me. Wang Yuya, this slap is for my daughter. I have a grudge against her. With his eyes, he said coldly. Also, Cheng Hao's money is the common property of our husband and wife. You'd better return all the things he gave you, or I will still sue you. Beso, we are about to divorce. You can ask him if he still has 500W for you. I threw away the hair caught from her head and clapped my hands with a sneer. Wang Yuya straightened up with difficulty, and her face was mixed with fear and anger. You know that Cheng Hao's company is now in a critical period of business expansion, and you still have to divorce and share his property, you vicious woman. I took the last sip of hot tea patiently in a flat tone. What does that have to do with you? You are a junior who interferes in other people's marriages. Since you love him so much, let's fight with him from the beginning. Wang Yuya is right. I deliberately cut off Cheng Hao's cash flow at this node. I have loved the wrong person and have borne the consequences. But how can Cheng Hao retreat with his whole body, beautifully dump me and my first love and girlfriend to renew his relationship? His group company was established by me for him, and now it's time for me to collect interest. If he betrayed me and hurt me, I had to pay the price I deserved. 9. Lu He brought the divorce agreement signed by Cheng Hao. Originally, I asked to divide 60% of the cash in equity, but Cheng Hao may have a clear conscience and took the initiative to increase it to give me 80%. I signed it without hesitation. This is what he owes me. Wang Yuya's apology video and handwritten apology letter were posted on the internet by me, and became a hot topic. For a moment, she changed from everyone's pursuit to everyone's shouting. Naturally, Cheng Hao could not stand alone. The whole network was scolding him for killing his child for Xiao San, and he was not worthy of being a husband and father. When I didn't see Cheng Hao, he kept calling me. When I refused to answer, he sent a lot of text messages. It's all heartfelt regret and guilt. I don't care about those. His pain has nothing to do with me. I am busy with my father's shift, and I will soon become the president of the group. Today is the annual celebration of Lu He's law firm. He is going to receive a commendation and give a speech. I came to the scene to support him. After the celebration banquet, we took a walk in the garden, and Lu He's eyes were full of excitement. Jane Missouri, did you see it? Today's honor is due to you. I pushed him with a smile. I didn't help you with your achievements. Lu He suddenly held my hand and said with a straight look, if I hadn't been thinking about you all the time, I wouldn't have the motivation to do so many things. His eyes were as bright as stars, and I saw the deep feelings hidden in them. In fact, we were both teenagers when our father and stepmother got married. We have never been like real brothers and sisters. We even deliberately avoid suspicion when we are at home. He is very talented and self-moting. He became a lawyer early and became a self-reliant portal. We didn't have many opportunities to meet. But every time we meet, he is always gentle and friendly to me. He will help me review my homework and secretly give me a lot of pocket money. When Cheng Hao and I had a wedding, he said he was going on a business trip abroad and didn't attend, but he directly sent me a black card with a limit of 20 million yuan, so that I could spend it casually and not wrong myself after marriage. Later, in my most difficult moment, it was Lu He who accompanied me and helped me deal with the collection of evidence and the divorce. It was him who took care of me after my abortion, and he was the one who comforted me when I was sad. It was he who gave me courage and strength. The emotions that I have been deliberately avoiding surfaced at this moment. Lu He, my stepbrother who is not related by blood, likes me. I didn't know what to say for a moment. Lu He restrained his smile and said seriously, Jane Missouri, my feelings for you are not as simple as my brother. He took a deep breath and continued. I've liked you since the first time I saw you, but I knew you liked Cheng Hao at that time, so I dare not say it. When I heard Lu He's confession, I felt a huge wave in my heart. In fact, I really didn't notice it at all. Or I have been ignoring his obvious emotions and efforts in the name of brothers and sisters, who are not related by blood. I was both moved and scared, and I didn't know how to respond. Finally, I whispered, Lu He, I understand your feelings for me, but I may need some time to think about it carefully before I can give you an answer. Hearing my answer, Lu He's expression was a little lost, but he still said patiently, I know your heart is still fragile now. Even if you can't accept it for a while, it doesn't matter. We will always be a family. But no matter when you are ready, I will always wait for you. And I am willing to spend the rest of my life protecting you. He hugged me gently and I didn't dodge. In this embrace, I felt his warmth and sincerity. However, after so many ups and downs, can I embrace happiness again? 10. Hearing Cheng Hao's news again, it was because his company was going bankrupt and liquidated. I was a little surprised. Although I divorced and divided most of his property, how could it be so soon? It turned out that Wang Yuya couldn't make it together. She promised to compensate me for 500W, so she asked Cheng Hao for money, but Cheng Hao didn't have that much cash, and the two of them quarreled because she caused me to have an abortion. Then Wang Yuya actually stole the trade secrets of Cheng Hao's company and sold them to the other company, which led to his company's failure in the fierce market competition. The friend gloated and said, just when Cheng Hao was busy dealing with the company's crisis, Wang Yuya actually fled abroad with a huge amount of money and completely withdrew. I can imagine how angry and humiliated Cheng Hao would be when he learned the news. He used to be obedient to Wang Yuya. Wang Yuya has been the white moonlight in his heart for so many years, but now he finds that he has been used by his lover like this. He will definitely feel angry and regretful. However, maybe before he regretted it the most, I looked at the USB flash drive on the table, thought of the evidence inside and fell into meditation. Cheng Hao asked me to meet him in the cafe. I thought about it and agreed. After not seeing each other for half a year, he looked embarrassed and decadent. Long time no see, Mr. Cheng. My tone is rusty. He smiled bitterly. Jane, Missouri, don't satirize me anymore. I may not be a president soon. I didn't bother to answer the phone and drank coffee in silence. But he suddenly began to confide. You once asked me why I wanted to marry you. I didn't understand it before, but later I realized that when I was with you, I was unconsciously happy, so I wanted to marry you. But I didn't expect to hurt you like this. You're right. I was just unwilling to accept Wang Yuya when I was young. I was fascinated and hurt the best person to me. He suddenly held my hand. Jane, Missouri, can you forgive me? His fingers are prominent because of his thinness, and his eyes are full of pleading. I remember many years ago, when he told me that he wanted to start a business but didn't have enough money, he also looked at me like this. At that time I chose to help him without hesitation. But now it's different. I broke away from his hand, took out the USB flash drive and pushed it over and slowly said, let's not talk about those things. The things in here are all evidence of Wang Yuya's father's violation of the law and discipline. It has been submitted to the judicial organ. I didn't want to tell you, but some of them are related to your family. I think you should have the right to know. Your father met Wang Yuya's father Wang Hongda in a business negotiation. Wang Hongda used his political power to set a trap in cooperation and introduced your father into a fake investment project. He directly cashed out, and your father took on a huge debt. Your mother may have vaguely guessed part of the truth. That's why she is so against you seeing Wang Yuya again later. Cheng Hao's father committed suicide by jumping off the building because he was unable to pay off his debt, and the daughter of the initiator was regarded as a white moonlight by Cheng Hao and treasured in his heart for decades. How ironic. Impossible, this can't be true. Cheng Hao unconsciously clasped his hand and scratched the bloodstains of the road, but he seemed to be completely unaware of it. I continued. There are also some screenshots of Wang Yuya's remarks, which were found from the social media account she has been running since high school. I stared at Cheng Hao's dull eyes and said, she said on the internet a long time ago that she was just playing with you. She could play with you. I won't describe it too much. Take it back and have a look yourself. Cheng Hao stood up suddenly, and the coffee cup was touched by him, making a crisp sound. He rushed out with the USB flash drive in his hand, carrying a desperate beast on his back. At this moment I finally have a kind of revenge-like pleasure. Wang Yuya's father killed Cheng Hao's father's family, and Wang Yuya is a complete liar, without a trace of conscience at all. The beautiful friendship in Cheng Hao's heart as a student is just a joke for her pleasure. But I won't save Cheng Hao anymore. These are all his own faults. 11. Cheng Hao still has some ability. He sold everything that could be sold, such as houses, cars, collectibles, and then pulled some financial support with the help of many years of operation, and finally made up the company's capital chain. At the same time, he sued Wang Yuya for commercial crimes and participated in the appeal against Wang Yuya's father as a witness. Although the company has been saved after this battle, it has also suffered a great damage to its vitality. At present it has barely failed to go bankrupt. I don't know what kind of mood he was in doing this series of things. I always knew that he was talented, so I supported him back then. In fact, even without me, he may not be able to get ahead with his talent. But these are not the reasons why he hurt me. Cheng Hao sent me a lot of gifts, but I refused them all. I really don't want to have anything to do with him anymore. In order to improve the competitiveness of the company, I have carried out a series of drastic internal reforms. The company's performance is gradually improving, and the market share is also expanding. But because I worked day and night, I was weak. I stepped on the stairs and fell down. When I woke up, Lu He was still by my side. He ordered me not to overdraw my body to work anymore. Fortunately, the company is developing well now. I arranged the work to the secretary and assistant. Every day I rest at home and attend banquets, eat and drink everywhere. Wang Yuya's father was sentenced, and Cheng Hao even connected with the supervisory agency and demanded that he be given a heavy sentence. The evidence we assisted in submitting also played a great role. Wang Hongda was full of private pockets, and the amount involved in the case was as high as 2 billion yuan. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison. It is estimated that he will not survive until he can get out of prison. All his family property has been confiscated, and even the money he secretly transferred abroad through Wang Yuya in the early years has been recovered. I ate bayberry lazily, and Lu He observed my face. Cheng Hao recovered some property from Wang Yuya's hand. He said that it was the original common property of your husband and wife, and let me give it to you. I was silent for a moment and then said, then take it for me. Lu He continued, Wang Yuya is dead. The bayberry slipped out of my hand. She has a boyfriend abroad who is addicted to drugs. In fact, she came back to China this time not only to save her father, but also to get money from Cheng Hao and support her boyfriend to take drugs. But later, Cheng Hao recovered most of the money, and the family property was gone. The man saw that she couldn't make money and beat her to death. Just like this, I looked at the bright red juice left by Yang Mei in my hand, thought of the pink baby shoes, and my tears slipped silently. My daughter, can you see it in the sky? The person who killed you will be retributioned. A few months after learning the news of Cheng Hao's death, I was drinking with my friends at the banquet. Cheng Hao, the president of Fuxing Group, sold the company. At first, everyone thought he was cashing out, but he suddenly jumped off the building and committed suicide. Jump off the building. The wine glass in my hand fell on the table, and the wine splashed everywhere. I was so surprised that I couldn't speak. Before he died, he also donated Hope Primary School. In his suicide note, he said that he didn't want to live, so that the police would close the case directly without verification. With a ding-dong sound, the mobile phone rang, and I received a message from Lu He. Cheng Hao notarized his will before his death. He left all the property to you, and the part of the public welfare fund he set up was also entrusted to you. If you are free tomorrow, I will pick you up for the legal process. I looked at this line of words, and my fingers seemed to be disobedient and extremely stiff. Finally, I only typed the next word, good. My friends were still chatting. I slowly walked to the garden, thinking of the entanglement between me and Cheng Hao for more than 10 years. My heart suddenly felt empty. The once surging love has disappeared with the passage of time. When Wang Yuya died, her father was imprisoned. Everyone who killed him paid the price, and he also paid back what he owed me. Then he chose to leave the world in the same tragic way as his father. Choosing a person and accompanying a person has always been a gamble. I once lost, and his love for more than 10 years has also lost completely. Now he has put an end to all this with his life. In a trance, I seemed to see Cheng Hao's appearance when he proposed to me many years ago, and I was so excited. He smiled slightly and said, marry me. I will always be good to you. Then a gust of wind blew. His figure scattered in the air, and a tear fell on my palm crystal clear. Cheng Hao, this is the last time I cry for you. Wrote he came to accompany me to play chess, watch movies and fish every day. I found that I gradually began to look forward to his arrival. Sometimes I will go back to my father's and stepmother's house with him, tossing and turning around the place where we used to live, as if we were still teenagers. With a bang, I accidentally knocked down a scroll on his bookshelf. The scroll was scattered on the ground, a large painting, and the girl on it sat on the swing with a bright smile. It's me. I looked up at Lu He. He was a little embarrassed. I drew it. He opened the drawer and pulled out a stack of manuscripts for me. I've been drawing for many years. The paper at the bottom has turned yellow, but it has been well preserved by him. It can be clearly seen that the author's handwriting was rusty at first, but later the technique became more and more fluent and natural. Some of the girls in the picture are sitting and reading, some are playing the piano, and some are playing ball happily. It's all me. Only a lover can draw such a deep painting. I remember a long time ago, I found that he had kept a lot of portraits of Wang Yuya in Cheng Hao's room. At that time I was in pain, angry and unwilling. But I didn't expect that someone, also with ardent love, looked at me silently for many years. It turns out that the happiness I expected has been by my side for a long time. I turned around and gently hugged Lu He, and the corners of my eyes were moist.